Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Many of us struggle with sales, whether it's from confidence, comfort, and just not wanting to be salesy. We want to help our customers. We know we can, but we complicate the process. This podcast is designed to help professionals like you improve at sales through process, practice, frameworks, and thinking differently about what you already know. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and this episode is the final episode in a series about sales skills. And of course, we're led by the founder of Catalyst Sale, Mike Simmons. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody.
All right. This is it, Mike. We're rounding out a great series and we're going to talk about negotiation.
What I think is awesome is just before we started recording, you said, I want to warm up the audience. You shared a bad joke, but now your picture in the background is a dragon with fire coming out of its mouth. So you're not only warming up the audience figuratively, you're doing it literally, maybe. Anyway, so all right, so back to the sales skills, and we'll leave the jokes alone because I know everybody likes them so much.
Yeah, well, that dragon, by the way, is from Universal Studios, that Harry Potter land or whatever it's called. That's where it's from, which has nothing to do with negotiation, but I'm
surprised they use Harry Potter land or whatever as the name of the place. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, sometimes if you don't work with a good marketing team, you just end up with titles like Harry Potter land or whatever. Maybe they needed to listen to this series on sales skills.
And here we go as we wrap it up.
Mike, sometimes I wonder how are these dry attempts at humor translate in a podcast.
Well, if you ask my family, they can't stand them.
Nobody's asking them. That's one thing I've learned, Mike. When you already know people are going to give you the answer you don't want, you just don't ask them.
This is true. So what are we talking about today? Negotiation.
So this is a good one to finish the series on because this is one that I think people have some trouble with. If you look at what we've done so far, maybe you're really good at research, you're open to saying, I don't know, you're good at project management. But now, if you get to this part where negotiation matters, it means all your work is paid off. You've got a customer that's a potential customer that's interested in your product, whatever that might be. And now you have to negotiate. And this can be very difficult for some people.
Yeah. And I think one of the mistakes a lot of people make when it comes to negotiation is thinking that it is something that happens at the end. Like that it's the last thing in the overarching journey. As you go through and you get ready to slay the dragon that's breathing fire over your head, you're now getting to the point where you are going to negotiate. Now, you might negotiate with a professional negotiator. You might be working with procurement. So you make it to that piece, and now you're going to have a conversation with procurement or the purchasing agent inside an organization. Or if procurement's not part of it, you might be kind of finalizing a negotiation relative to terms that you've been working on over a period of time. But a key takeaway that I think everybody should take from this is that you're always in a negotiation. You're always trading pieces of information with folks. And I think if you look at negotiation as a series of trades, it becomes less complicated or less difficult or less daunting of a thing to talk through. So negotiation, here we go.
Well, you have tackled to some degree what I was going to ask first, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it might lead you to talk about it in a different way. The first thing you said is people have the wrong perception negotiation happens at the end. So if it doesn't happen at the end, when does it happen?
It happens throughout the entire journey that you have with your customer. People are making decisions as you engage with them. Do I like this person? Do I trust this person? Am I interested in what they're sharing? Are they engaging me in conversation? Are they actually interested in what I'm going to share? In those interactions, you're trading time. I'm trading my time as a sales professional, the person on the other end who's got the problem, who hopefully I've got something that can help solve that problem. That person who has the problem, they are trading their time. And so as you're trading things, you're negotiating. And depending on role inside an organization, and granted, we're all human beings. We all kind of put our pants on the same way, so to speak, if we wear pants. But there's a If I'm dealing with an executive, a senior executive in a multi-billion-dollar organization who has a team of whomever inside their organization, the value that they associate with their time might be higher than how they perceive my time. May say, well, this is a person who doesn't have this huge team of people. So on their side, they're starting to trade things. They're saying, I'm willing to trade a piece of my time for some value that you are going to deliver. Same thing happens later on in the cycle where we're trading maybe pieces of contract language for other contract language, or we're trading pieces of contract language to accelerate a deal going forward. If we're talking about licensing, we might be trading number of licenses that are purchased inside an organization for money. We might be willing to reduce the amount that we're charging someone if they can provide access to other people in their network. So maybe they provide a testimonial or a case study or a referral, or they introduce us to others. So think of this as a series of trades that happen all the way throughout the process. And if you do a really good job at documenting the things that are important to the person on the other end, you start to identify those things that they value at a high level. They put a high amount of value on, but might ultimately be really low cost on your side. And you can optimize your trade when you do things like that.
I am enjoying this, to think of negotiation as a series of trades, but it makes me want to back up, go to the beginning, perhaps the first thing I should have asked, because I see that you have a unique way to look at negotiation. So let me ask it this way. What is negotiation?
You think I'd be ready to define it. I think it's a series of trades. I think that's how I look at it. It's a series of trades where you are interested in getting something in return for a value that you're delivering. There's some kind of value exchange that's happening that's supported through some mechanism of trading. Could be, I think back in the olden days, people would trade, I would like milk from your cow. I'm going to go ahead and trade you 3 eggs for a quart of milk. So in that instance, we're trading goods back and forth. In more common terms, we're trading currency. I'll trade you, I think Starbucks coffee might be $6 these days. I'll trade you $6 for a Starbucks cup of coffee rather than go down the street to the McDonald's and pay 99 cents for the McCafe or whatever it is that they sell there. But it's an exchange of something for value. And on either side of that equation, someone perceives the value of the other thing in one way, shape, or form. Like Bitcoin. There was a time when someone spent, I think, 10,000 Bitcoin for a Domino's pizza. And that at that point in time, that was a good trade. Today, not as good of a trade.
Hearing you talk about it that way makes me think back when I had what you would call a regular job. If I wanted to buy something, I would always think in terms of how much time am I trading to get this? So, for example, let's just say I made $100 a day and I come to buy something from you, Mike, and you say, well, this will cost $200. And my first thought wasn't this costs $200. It's this costs 2 days of working at a job I don't care for very much in order to get this. Is that worth it? And when you think of it in that term, I think it changes negotiation. So from the other side of the table, if you can figure out how the other person views it, are they viewing it as in I'm trading my time for this? Are they viewing it I'm trading money for this? What are they trading in return for what you're giving them?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And that's how we can simplify these concepts. There are some people who have written amazing books on negotiation. One of my favorite is Chris Voss's, and I'm going to misquote the name of the book. I think it's Don't Split the Difference or Never Split the Difference.
That's right.
Chris Voss's book is amazing. He has a masterclass out there on Masterclass where he talks about negotiation, gets into things like tactical empathy in the context of what he learned as a hostage negotiator. There are a number of people who've written more books than you probably can count on the concept of negotiation. For me, when I think about it, it's about value exchange. And if I can understand, and this is where the empathy piece becomes really critical, if I can understand how the person on the other end values things, what they value, how much value they associate with those things, why they value it, it puts me in a better position to trade properly with them. Now, on my side, I also need to understand what my limits are. So my limits might be, I have flexibility in governing law in a contract. We could go silent on governing law. My flexibility might be, we're in a good cash position, so I have the flexibility of allowing terms to go beyond payment due in full at signing of contract. I can allow net 30 or net 45 or net 90. Know where my flexibility is, know where those boundaries are, and then start to design conversation to get a sense for the other person's boundaries and how they align with your boundaries and where those trades can happen. And the key here, and this is where the game becomes really interesting to me and why I find it fascinating and exciting, is if you ask the right questions, you start to get a sense for what people really value. So some of the people that you're working with may put a higher value on reducing reputational risk or improving reputation perception than they do on the money that's being paid by the organization. If that's the case, leverage it. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about trading. We're talking about leverage. We're talking about gathering information. A lot of these things are aligned with skills that we've talked about before. And what's really cool when you talk about sales in general, problem solving, execution, delivering things, you can start to put all of these skills together, kind of like Danielson does in The Karate Kid. You go from sand the floor to paint the fence to wax the car. And then you start to figure out, how can I put each of these things together into my own system to help me improve my ability to deliver and execute across my customer base, whether it's project management, it's negotiation, it's being comfortable saying, hey, I don't know, and going and finding out the answer, or going and conducting research.
What questions can you ask to find out what the other person, the person you're negotiating with, values?
This one's really complicated. What's important to you? Like, that's a really big one. What's important to you? Just say, so what's important to you? Now, I can't go into a meeting with a procurement person or a senior leader inside an organization, or even someone just down the street, and the first question I ask is, what's important to you? And we're like, who are you? Why are you asking? Why do you care? What are you trying to sell me? All of those things. So I have to build rapport over a period of time before I can ask those questions. But I think the more direct you are, the faster you'll get to the answer that you're looking for. So what's important to you? Why is it important? What happens if we don't do that? Are there other things that we haven't considered? Really like that question. Are there other things we haven't considered? Because those will reveal blind spots that might happen inside your business that you just didn't even think about.
One thing that comes to mind as you say that, I think to a negotiation that I did for a program we were doing, and the organization that bought it, they really wanted was extra access to us. And it's really easy to think, well, every organization values price. They're going to want a deal. And if we would have just gone in and said, hey, you're sending this many people through the program, let's cut you a deal to make it worth your time, it wouldn't have mattered to them and I'm sure so we would have got less money out of the deal and not delivered to them what they valued the most, which was more access. And so we, in different words, basically asked that question, what's important to you? And they said, hey, we want our people to be able to ask questions and have access. And we said, all right, let's work that out. And they never even asked for an adjustment in price because that wasn't important to them.
So how many questions did they ask after that, though? Like, how many questions did their people? And I know this is getting into detail. We've not named the customer. So, but after you delivered this, so they said, yep, you have the ability to ask questions. How many people actually asked questions or took advantage of that capability? This is two-part to it, because not everyone that had the ability to ask questions did. So let's just say there were X amount of people and you would maybe run through a thing in your mind. Okay, well, if they all asked 10 questions, gosh, that's a lot of questions. But it didn't work that way. Not everybody asked questions. And the ones that did got so much more value out of what they were going through. So yeah, it's really easy. We could have said, oh no, if everybody has access and asks questions, that's all we're ever going to do. But that's not how it worked. Not everybody asked questions. Yet on the other side, they perceive the value of having that kind of access is really high, whether or not they were going to use it. And I think that's a really important point for everybody to get. You don't determine the perception of value on the other end. The other end determines the perception of value on their end. So your customers determine that perception of value. You can influence it. You can ask questions to kind of reveal it. Similar to the conversation that we'll have around urgency. One of the most common questions I'll get is, how can I create more urgency inside on the deal relative to the deals that we're working on, just so that people make decisions and move forward? And as I've said before, there's only one person in my life that creates urgency, and she's down the hall a number of steps and will be listening to this so that she can put together show notes. She can create urgency. A sales rep is not going to create urgency. Don't tell me that this deal is only good for X period of time, because once you've set your price, I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to get that deal, or I won't move forward and do business with you. It's not me being a jerk. Those are arbitrary timelines that are based on your quarter ending, not based on something that's happening inside my business. So the questions we ask can help reveal urgency. The questions we ask can help reveal value perception on the other side of the table. Don't assume things. Ask better questions and be really direct with those questions. Your confidence will improve as you build better rapport and trust with your customers, and then you will feel more comfortable and confident in asking those direct questions.
Well, this has given me some inspired new thoughts about negotiation, because now, after talking with Mike for however long we've been going here, I realize negotiation is two things: finding out what's important to your customer, and then doing a series of trades to exchange what you find valuable for what they find valuable.
I think you just summarized the podcast in like 30 seconds. So we might have to put a disclaimer on the front end. Fast forward to the end and Jody will summarize this for y'all, or go through the entire journey and you kind of feel the dance as we move our way through it. But hopefully there were a lot of nuggets in there. I think this is probably one of our better podcasts that we've done in a while. I don't know if it's the extra coffee I had today or the springy shirt that I'm wearing. As Jody had highlighted, I'm wearing what do you call this color? Is it like turquoise or aqua or something like that?
Kind of turquoise.
Jody called me bright when we started today. So here we go. We started with bad jokes and end with bad inside jokes.
Well, perhaps this turned out to be a good episode because I took the time to warm us up with a joke before we started recording.
Perhaps.
All right. This has been a great conversation, Mike. I've really enjoyed this, and I think it does give a fresh perspective to negotiation, and I hope has shown you it's nothing to be scared of, that it's just a conversation to find out what's important for the other person and working with them to give it to them. And if you help them get what they want, you're going to get what you want in return. So this is the final one in the series of sales skills. We've talked about research. We've talked about, I don't know. I'm kidding. That was the topic. I don't know. The importance of saying, I don't know. We've talked project management, and we've talked about negotiation. But it could be we've missed something that was important to you. And if we have, let us know and we'll do an episode about it. Mike, how can someone let us know they want us to do an episode about another topic in sales skills?
The best way to tell people to do this is send them one place and then let them do it. I'm actually going to give people two places. So I'm going to break the rules. Send an email to podcast@catalystsale.com. podcast@catalystsale.com. Those will make it to us, and then we'll be able to go through questions there. You can let us know if you want your name and organization revealed in that. Just let us know in that email. Another place to do it is go to catalystsale.com and just hit the live chat button on catalystsale.com. It'll go into our HubSpot system, which moves things into Slack. It's all really technical and cool how it's all integrated. But you go in there, hit the live chat, and then just drop the question in there and leave your email address, and we'll send you something special.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Perhaps you should wear bright shirts more often when we record. And thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale Podcast.